Have you ever been in a situation where things seem perfectly normal, and then something happens that makes you realize it's actually not very normal at all? In this week's episode, I'm going to talk about a run-in I had with a pyramid scheme company. This memory stands out as one of the strangest and most bizarre things I've ever experienced, and something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Stay tuned. I'm Michael Laron, and this is the Writer's Journey podcast, where you get a window into the life of a working science fiction and fantasy author. I'm on a mission to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I share my progress and discover what inspires my books and how I write them. You can find the show notes for today's episode at michaellaron.com/podcast. This week, I'm reading a page from my writer's sketchbook. Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the podcast. Today I'm telling you my pyramid scheme story. I've told this to friends, but never the writing community, so here goes. The year was 2006. I was a freshman in high school. I was going to a small private college in Iowa, and as one of the only black people on campus, I was trying to make the best of it. If you've never met me in person, it probably wouldn't surprise you to know that I'm fairly outgoing and friendly, even though I'm socially awkward and an introvert at heart. I remember introducing myself to a lot of different people my freshman year, just trying to find the people that I could relate to. That's where this story begins. It's my freshman year of college, and I'm standing in line at the college grill, waiting to buy a hamburger. There's a guy standing in line in front of me, and I smile and nod to him. He's got slightly balding strawberry blonde hair, which is unusual for someone his age. He's short, wearing a blue basketball cap, a gray athletic shirt, and basketball shorts. We start chatting and actually end up eating dinner together. He tells me about how he's majoring in business and how he is actually an entrepreneur, selling products in his spare time. He strikes me as a geeky kind of guy, but not the entrepreneurial type. I, not knowing what entrepreneurs are at the time, am impressed. I want to know more. He invites me to a weekly conference that he attends and says that he'd love to have me learn more about his company. Being a young college student with no money, I agree to join him. Mistake number one. A few days later, we arrive at a local hotel. My acquaintance is dressed up, wearing a black suit and tie, which is a complete wardrobe reversal for him. There are signs everywhere, directing us to a conference center, a gigantic ballroom in the back of the hotel. Crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, a big stage in front with blue and green lights shining in the center. There are people everywhere, crowds and crowds of them, like your typical conference. They're all dressed up too. I'm wearing a lavender button-down Oxford and jeans, and I feel out of place. As we're pushing through the crowd, people are calling out my acquaintance's name. As he shakes hands and waves at people, I think to myself, this is awfully elaborate for a weekly conference. He introduces me to his district manager, a mousy guy who's my age, which is saying something because I'm only 19. We sit at a table, and the manager tells me how he's invested his life into the business. He had a full ride to a prestigious school in the Midwest United States, but he dropped out of college to be a businessman, and he's all in. I ask him what the company sells, and he tells me that they sell products. He hands me a brochure. There are energy drinks, shakes, exercise accessories, things I would hardly call entrepreneurial. It also doesn't make sense that he keeps claiming he's an entrepreneur, yet he's employed by this company. I pepper him with dozens of questions, and to this day, I don't think that he ever gave me a clear answer on what exactly the business was or how it made money. Instead, he asked me point blank, "Do you want a new future?" I'm taken aback. "You're a smart guy," he says, "and black. You could really make a name for yourself in this industry." I politely decline. He asks again, I decline. He asks me again, and I tell him, "Look, dude, I'm cool." Then he gets up and walks away, tells me that he'll check in with me after the conference. He's not going to take no for an answer, and that's when my gut tells me something's not right here. More people sit down, and I find myself sitting next to an Asian woman about my age. I ask her some questions and we start chatting. I'm sensing some flirting, and she's pretty attractive. She's dressed in a tan blouse and a long pencil skirt. There's a pen tucked behind her ear, and she has a portfolio on her lap with eloquently written notes about profit and loss, supply and demand, target markets, funnels. She strikes me as smart and assertive. She tells me that she works for an aquarium manufacturer by day, and that she dreams of being her own boss. I ask her what she sells, and her answer makes 0 sense. Still, I like her personality and her energy. The conference begins. The lights dim, everyone claps, and a tall man in a double-breasted suit jogs on stage. He looks and sounds like a pastor. What ensues is a sermon, but not about God. This sermon is about business. The guy chastises everyone in the room for not activating their full potential, and he then praises them in the next sentence for being brave and taking their lives into their own hands. He talks about how he bought a brand new Cadillac because he's a good businessman. He calls 2 people up to the stage, hands them the keys to their brand new Cadillacs because they're the salespeople of the year. He tells the whole crowd that this is possible for everyone in the room and that he wants this for everyone in the room. Everyone in the room claps. The whole time, the woman is taking notes, filling up page after page. I'm confused. I'm chatting with the Asian woman the whole time, and we're hitting it off. Despite the fact that I have no clue about the business she's in, I'd like to get to know her better. I'm pretty shy when it comes to these things, but I mustered up the courage to ask her out for ice cream. Her eyes light up when I ask the question, and then she says to hold on. She needs to ask her manager if he would give her permission to go out with me for ice cream. She ventures through the crowd, asks the manager I confronted earlier. He gives me an evil look from across the room. Then she wanders back over and says, I'd really like to go out with you, but he won't allow it. My head is about to explode. I tell her thanks and good luck. Then I turn and I run like hell. True story. So that's my pyramid scheme story. I researched that company later that night and found out that it was, in fact, an alleged scheme. I read horror stories of people who invested tens of thousands of dollars into it, only to find themselves in dangerous physical, financial, mental, and emotional danger, usually from manipulation. I won't share any more because I don't want anyone to know what company I'm talking about. This is some scary stuff. I don't want to leave my house and have a black sedan in front of my house waiting for me. No thanks. I can laugh about the event now, but I remember feeling sorry for that woman. She was definitely in over her head. Whatever kind of relationship she had with her boss, it couldn't have been healthy. Not if she couldn't think for herself. I read stories of managers controlling every aspect of people's lives, even telling them what to wear and say. I'm pretty sure some manipulation was at work here. I think sometimes that maybe I should have done something. Call the police or reported the incident, but I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have ended well for her or me. Or maybe I was completely wrong and misread the situation. Or maybe she misunderstood what I was asking. I don't think so, though. I was pretty clearly asking her out on a date, but I never saw her again. As for that acquaintance that dragged me to the event, I don't know what happened to him either. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed the show, here are a couple ways to help a brother out. If you're listening to this on Anchor, favorite the show. If you're listening to this on a podcast app, do me a favor and write me a review and share it with your friends. You can, of course, visit my website and learn more about my work at michaellaron.com. If you have a question, send me a voice message on Anchor and you just might hear it on the show. Next week, I'll be going behind the scenes of my writing process. Until then, I leave you with a quote. Loneliness adds beauty to life. It puts a special burn on sunsets and makes night air smell better. Henry Rollins.